Some of these, yeah. Okay, that used to be the criterion for appearance at the convention. You had to be on the cast list.
Well, actually, for the Star Wars, I mean, there's a technical thing for Star Wars. It's Lucasfilm, and you go through an approval process. Actually, when they do a Star Wars convention, it has to be go through the Lucasfilm approval that you can actually do the attendance and sign autographs on Star Wars photographs.
It's very funny because I was going to ask Anthony, because I haven't heard his story, because we haven't actually been together. We did this scene together, the scene in Tunisia on Tatooine that has been eliminated from George's version, but is there in everybody else's.
The YouTube version.
Yeah. I was going to ask Anthony about his audition for this film way back in 1975, I guess it was. And I've never heard his story. But I mean, George was very kind of structured for these auditions. He had a 1 to 10 marking system. And I remember the casting agent saying to me, "Look, George is very shy." This is one of his, after he'd done American Graffiti, but he's still shy with actors then. And maybe still is. But she said, "Just talk." And that didn't seem to be a problem for me. But the fact is, George then was just sitting there marking us. And then later on, Irene, the casting director, said to me, "Well, you got 7 on the list, on the marking." And I guess that proved all right, because at that time, Biggs was about the second best part cast in England after Alec Guinness at that time in the script. So I don't know how many marks Tony got.
2. I don't think George was marking me. I don't know. I can't remember if he was marking me. I just remember it was a very blank room. 20th Century Fox had an office in Soho Square in London. And I got called in because Irene Land, who cast Star Wars, she cast me in a film called The Eagle Has Landed. So I'd done The Eagle Has Landed, so she knew my work, and that's when I went in to meet George. And I actually met George 4 or 5 times. And there were different things I was looking at, and he'd show me the script, and he was very coveted about showing the script to anyone. Because he was
he showed you the script?
Yeah, I knew he had it on the desk, and I remember it was kind of like I'd seen a couple of pages of it, but most of it was conversation. I mean, as Garrick says, George does not talk a lot. He's very, very shy, and so he allows you, like a number of directors, it's a wait and see process. Whereas film directors will often, as opposed to going in and saying, I want you to do this or I want you to try that, is they will wait and see what you come to the table with, what you bring into the room, to see how you are as a person, and to see, one, obviously if you're somebody they can work with, but also just to get a sense of what you might be right for in their minds. So it's a lot of the good directors do that. They sit back and they just wait and see. And even when they're directing, they'll wait and see what they're getting first before they start changing things. Because that's always a danger. It's kind of dangerous as a director on a film set to go in and start saying, "Oh, we're going to do it this way, we're going to do it that way." Simply because you're hiring people to bring it to the table. And that's what you're hoping to hire, people who can actually bring a performance, and then you can tone the performance from there. So George has that quality of sitting back and just watching and observing.
But did you actually read for
Yeah, you know what? I can't remember if I actually read or we were going, or whether he'd actually give me a page or something to look at.
Because I never saw a script. I remember him saying, "Well, what have you been doing?" I said, "Well, I've been doing this film in Morocco," and then we ended up in Libya because they kicked us out of Morocco. King Faisal kicked. It was a film about Muhammad, and it was a year I was working on that film for 13 months. And I told him that's what I'd been doing, and he said, "Well, I've been in Morocco, and I somehow or other I remember talking about my black cape that I bought in Morocco. I didn't wear that because I was dressed like a follower of Muhammad, but the black cape somehow stuck in his mind, and it ended up in the cut scene with this fantastic scene I did with Tony." The fantastic costume that John Mollo put together, pretty well just choosing things out of the wardrobe, he got the black cape, and I had the black cape, and I had a Russian collar and lovely leather pants. It was a great costume he threw together when I went for my wardrobe fitting. But the black cape, somehow, George was fascinated by the whole Moroccan experience, because he knew he was going to Tunisia. And I'd shot in the desert for 6 months on Muhammad. But the fact that that costume, because John Mullo still comes out to conventions occasionally, and it's lovely to see him. But at that time is where I met Mark for the first time at the wardrobe at Angels in London, a costume place, and he gave me a hug even then. And we're just met, and he said, "Hey, my best friend, you got a great part. You died." And the fact is, we didn't know that he was going on for a few more episodes. I wish I hadn't died.
You would have been awesome in the battle scene with Wedge. You would have been awesome in a battle scene with Wedge.
Wedge survived.
Who doesn't? He never does conventions anyway.
No, I want him to, because there we are in this big box together, practically holding hands. There's a theory about Wedge and Biggs, but we've never signed this big box together. I've signed a lot of them. Yeah.
Is he, who's the actor who plays Wedge?
Dennis Lawson.
Is he Ewan McGregor's uncle?
Uncle.
Right, yeah, his uncle, yeah.
Curious enough, I produce audiobooks, and one of the projects we've had recently are abridging and recording Ewan McGregor's trips around the world on his motorbike with Charlie Borman. So long way around we've done, long way down we've done, but Ewan hasn't been able to read them, and Charlie doesn't. He's dyslexic, Charlie Borman. So I have two good actors reading, one for Ewan, who's a Scottish actor, and one for Charlie, who's English accent.
Maybe we should get Dennis next year. Make it
Mention it, yeah, you should mention the
Dennis? Yeah, it's hard to get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking, it seems to be, what's the English connection with Star Wars? I mean, so much seems to be
Well,
English
he wanted to
actors
shoot there. They had the best technicians.
He wanted to.
No.
No, it was Elstree Studios, which is partly now shopping mall.
Oh.
But it was originally MGM Studios years and years ago, and then became known as Elstree Studios, and it's where Kubrick shot 2001.
Oh, that's.
And that was the connect. There was a lot of connections to 2001 in the history of that.
Yeah, you said some of the X-Men fighters' jumpsuits were similar or inspired, maybe part of
either borrowed or not.
Yeah. Right. Interesting.
So the Elstree Studios, God, I worked up there before Star Wars, and really familiar to me. I did a whole series with an actor called Gene Barry, who you may know, or I don't know, he's called The Adventure. I was on that for quite a long time. With Barry Morse, another actor who you should know. Barry passed away a couple of months ago, actually. And but I knew Elstree, and then became it was very familiar and a lovely place to work up there.
You wanted to shoot in England?
Well, part of one of the stories was the fact that there was that connection to England and the technicians, but also that they were going to be filming it. They're going to be filming in North Africa. So then you're going to have to pull your equipment from somewhere because they didn't have. Tunisia didn't have the equipment, the cameras or anything like that, the lighting. So you're going to have. And actually, the airplane they chartered, they took a bunch of the seats out of the front to store camera equipment in because they were flying all the equipment in.
On 9 minutes.
So that was another reason.
A lot more convenient from England to Africa.
It was also cost issues, and apparently at the time that the money had been raised, or 20th century, were starting to fund Star Wars properly. When they did the transfer of the funds from the United States to England, and this kind of might have been a precursor to the warning of how much money Star Wars would make, they apparently made on the exchange rate an extra $1 million because the British had devalued the pound.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So you had a $10 million budget, and when they did the transfer of the funds in January, apparently the British government devalued the pound, so that's $10 million and earned almost an extra $1 million in currency exchange. Which is kind of, yeah, it was just a circumstance that just happened. So
Yeah.
that was maybe a little bit of a precursor to the
Indicating, yeah.
dollar signs in Star Wars. Yeah.
I understand, though, that he took